Okay, it is now 7 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Virtual Writers Workshop. My name is Salim. I will be serving as your host tonight and will help navigate questions. Our topic tonight is Express Yourself, a journal writing workshop presented by local author Maisie Sparks. Before I introduce Maisie, I do want to give a few updates about the library. We are open to the public and currently offering a grab and go service. This means you can come in and browse the shelves, grab your hold items, and even use a computer for 1 hour each day. If you don't feel comfortable coming into the library just yet, we are continuing our curbside delivery service. This is where you can request items at home and pick them up in front of the library during designated hours. For more information on that, please visit champaign.org/curbside. If you need help, there are a few ways you can connect with staff. You can schedule a consultation at champaign.org/bookalibrarian. You can also chat with us anytime the library is open, and you can email us at librarian@champaign.org. I also want to share a few instructions for communicating through Zoom tonight. So depending on your device, at the bottom of the screen towards the center, you should see the option to chat, which will allow you to type your question in. Next to that is the option to raise your hand if you prefer to use your microphone, and I can unmute you. We appreciate if you could hold all your questions for Maisie until the end of her presentation, and she will address them then. With that said, I'd like to now introduce our presenter. Maisie Sparks has been journaling for 20 years, and her best-selling book, 151 Things God Can't Do, was written using a journal writing technique, list making. She is also the author of Holy Shakespeare and Christmas Quiet, and her writings, A Feast of Losses, Restworks, and Spend Time with Others, Preparing the Heart for Social Justice, have appeared in several anthologies. Maisie is a journalism graduate of the University of Illinois and the editorial director of the Sparks Group, a marketing and communications firm she founded 25 years ago. Tonight, she's here to share some journaling writing techniques and benefits with us. Maisie, thank you again for being here, and I will turn it over to you now.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen now. Good to be here, and thank you again, Selim, for allowing me to be here and share again about a topic that I enjoy. I gave a presentation back in September of last year for the library about creative writing, and if you were there then, you heard me say the name Michelle Weldon. I had the good fortune of meeting Michelle when my younger son and her sons were on the same high school wrestling team. I had read her book, Writing to Save Your Life, and I had told her how affirming it was to me, who was at that time still a novice at keeping a journal. I have found my journal to be a safe place to express myself. But that chance meeting with Michelle wasn't my first attempt at journal writing. It had actually started when I was given a diary my freshman year in high school. I think it was a belated birthday gift from one of my good friends. It's mostly filled with writings about the boys I had crushes on. At different times throughout the years, I'd write my thoughts down on random pieces of paper, but I don't advise that because you don't know where those random pieces of paper are later in case you want to go back and reflect on your writing. In the year 2000, for some unknown reason, I wanted to become more intentional about journal writing. And I must have mentioned this to a niece because she gave me a journal for my birthday. Now, I've used inexpensive spiral-bound notebooks as journals, but I'm very thankful for the many friends who knew that I liked to journal and have given me some very pretty ones. That's a little bit about me. Let's take a poll and get an idea about who's here with us this evening. Selim, can you put the poll up for us now?
Yes, one moment.
Okay. Great. So just tell us, how long have you been journaling? Are you just starting out? You're in your early years? You've gotten your legs under you at this, or 6 to 10 years? You're getting to be a real master at the 11 to 20 years, or if it's more than that, you could be giving this workshop as well. So click on the one that best identifies you.
Give people a few more seconds to
Sure.
vote. Looks like almost everyone has
Okay.
answered, so I will end it and share the results.
Okay, great. Wow, okay. We have a lot of people just starting out. Good. But there's a pretty good mix of how long we've been journaling. That's great. Thank you for taking that poll. And if you want to put in the comment like why you journal or why you want to start journaling, please feel free to do so. In the time we have this evening, I'd like to look at some of the benefits of journal writing. There are way too many to list, so I'll only be sharing a few. Then I'd like to share some of the fake rules and some of the real rules about this discipline. We'll take some time to practice a few journal writing exercises, and finally we'll end with some ideas about what you can do with all that content you've written in your journals over the years. I'm going to put this PowerPoint presentation in the chat so you don't have to write down what's on the slides. You can just grab the presentation from the chat room before you leave this evening. I imagine that people have been journaling, whether they called it that or not, from the time writing was created. One of the first discovered journals was written by a Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius, about 2,000 years ago. It's said that he would rise early in the morning and write down simple truths that came to him from his life experiences. He wrote about how to live well, how to overcome adversity, how to deal with frustrating people, how to combat negative thinking, just about everything related to the human experience. In some shape or form, I think many of us still write about those kinds of things today. For me, my journal is my place to look at my life and to tell the truth about what I see. It's a place where I can be as honest as I possibly can be about myself. This honesty, however, is the number one reason most people don't want their journals to outlive them. We'll touch on that a little bit more later. The art of journaling has been found to be beneficial for everything from relieving depression to helping us get organized. Former President Barack Obama kept a journal even while he lived in the White House. For him, keeping a journal and doing self-reflection has helped him keep a timeline of his mental and intellectual evolution. Those in the mental health profession have suggested that journaling allows our creativity to flourish and expand and can make a big difference in our overall well-being. In our writing, we can confront emotions, process difficult events, and compose a coherent narrative about our experiences. Now, keep in mind, if you use your journal to work through traumatic experiences, you might want to let a therapist know if you use one. Many therapists can share journaling exercises that offer additional insights and aids that help us in healing our emotions. People from all walks of life have kept journals. Anne Frank, a 13-year-old Jewish girl hiding in an attic in Germany, probably wrote the most famous modern-day journal. But presidents, physicists, actors, singers, philanthropists, and talk show hosts have kept journals. Matthew McConaughey recently wrote a book, Green Lights, based on his journals. It's reported that Bill Gates, the software guy, carries around a little mini journal to write down his thoughts. Charlotte Fortin Grempy, she's pictured under Oprah. She was an African-American woman whose journals were written during the Civil War. These journals have given us a history of the life of a free Black woman in the antebellum North. While journals are for the people who write them, history has also benefited from the experiences and thoughts of journal writers. In talking to people about journaling, I found that one of their biggest challenges is they don't think they have time to write every day. That's not necessarily so. You can keep a quick journal. What's a quick journal? It's a journal that you spend 2 to 3 minutes with each day, or however often you choose. You also choose a consistent topic and you journal about that one topic each time. So let's give it a try. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes. You can choose any of the suggestions on the slide, or you can choose your own topic that you think you'd like to write about on a regular basis. I'll play some music and you can write. So how was that? See, you don't have to take hours each day to journal. Let's take a minute now to look at the tools you'll need to keep a journal. This slide is pretty self-explanatory, but I want to address a very important journal writing controversy. Should I write in a journal, or is it okay to journal on a computer? Personally, I'm old school. I prefer to journal longhand. But if you're comfortable being on a screen, go with your laptop. Do what works for you. Those who journal using their laptops cite as benefits the ability to transfer ideas quickly to other media, such as their blogs, or they can tweet them out, or they can email an idea to someone quickly. They can store their entries by topic, and most people write faster on a laptop, and it's always legible. The cons of using a laptop are distractions. All of a sudden, there's a notification on your screen, or you're checking emails or searching for something. And laptops also tap into our need to be perfectionists. We can quickly change and edit our thoughts instead of letting ourselves see the struggle, the scratching out, the rephrasing that is often part of the writing process. One of the pros of handwritten journals is just the fact that it gives you a break from the keyboard, which is such a big part of our lives today. In a handwritten journal, you can draw and doodle and scribble, which is harder to do on a laptop unless you have journal writing software. When it comes to writing by hand, studies have shown that we remember more when we write by hand. And writing by hand makes us slow down, which can be a stress reducer. Some research indicates that people who keep handwritten journals will journal or use this practice a whole lot longer than people who use a computer. But either way you go, both journals and laptops have security and privacy issues, so be sure you are comfortable with the privacy you can attain with either platform. The wonderful thing about keeping a journal is that it's for you and by you. With that in mind, you don't have to worry about a lot of the rules that need to be kept when you're writing for other people. So give yourself a lot of grace when it comes to journal writing. Don't sweat grammar and spelling. Do make sure, of course, your handwriting is legible. Remember, you don't have to write every day, but I would suggest that when you're first starting this discipline, try to be consistent for 30 days or so just to help form the habit. Some people set a timer for 10 to 15 minutes so that they don't lose track of time and miss doing other things that they need to do. It's very easy to get lost in your writing. Finally, and the most important thing to know is this: you don't have to be a writer to keep a journal. Anyone can record what's important to them. It's your life. It's worth keeping track of. For many people, journal writing is not just a practice. It's a way of being. It's a time to grab a cup of hot coffee or a large glass of cold iced tea. You go find your favorite comfy chair, or you sit on the back porch, or you might find the quiet room at the library or a solitary park bench, and you just slow down for a while. It's a time for relaxing your brain, for allowing whatever ideas that emerge to emerge, and you capture those you want to capture. Journaling is not just about writing. It's about getting in touch with you, with what's going on in your heart and your mind, and sharing your deepest thoughts with you. Quite frankly, even if you don't write down one word in your journal, just the process of giving yourself some time to stop and pay attention to your own thoughts can be transformational. But should you decide to put pen to paper or hands to keyboard, those are some guidelines. Let me explain just one of them. I think the others are self-explanatory. What do I mean by cut to the chase? In your journal, you don't have to write disclaimers like, I shouldn't write that, or I shouldn't feel that way, or I shouldn't think like that. Truth is, you do feel that way, and you do have that emotion, so you can just go ahead and write about it. Well, I think we have a good framework for the art of journal writing, so let's actually do some more journal writing. We are probably all familiar with goal setting, but have you ever done any fear setting? 2 years ago, a friend invited me to go with her to India. Now, India had never been on my bucket list, but what she was inviting me to do there was. I was leaning into going, but I had a lot of fears, questions, and apprehensions about the trip. Only a few are listed here. Interestingly, during the time I was pondering my decision, I heard a woman talk about fear setting and decided to give it a try. I got my journal, made 3 columns. First column, my fears about going to India. Second column, my plans to prevent my fears. And the third column was listing how I could repair things if my plans went sideways. So this is our next journal writing exercise. Think about a decision you are pondering. Are there fears, concerns? What can you do to minimize them? And if your fears were to come true, how would you get back on track? Let's take about 4 minutes or so with this exercise. Make your columns, list any concerns, no matter how big or small. You probably won't get everything listed in such a short time, but that's okay. This is just to get us started, and you can finish the exercise later. I'll play some music and you can write. Well, how was that? If you want, put some of your thoughts about that exercise in the chat. I hope you found it useful. After I had done my fear setting exercise, I decided to go to India. Know what? Most of my fears never happened. I did get sick though. The food was good, but it was also the spiciest I had ever eaten. So I ended up drinking ginger ale and eating crackers for a couple of days, and then I was fine again. While I was there, I kept a journal, and when I came back, I organized my words and my photos into an album that's a very special keepsake from a very wonderful experience. Even if you don't journal every day, consider journaling when you take a special trip or there's some special event. It's a great written record for yourself as well as future generations. We're not going to practice this journal writing technique, but I do want to give a shout out and some affirmation to those who draw and doodle in their journals. This is a valid use of our journaling pages. What some people add after they have created their artistic work is they write something about their drawing. They will, they could say why they drew it or what it means or where the idea came from or what they're going to do with their art. When combined, writing and drawing can be a very insightful experience. So do give yourself permission to draw and doodle, especially if you think you are not an artist. There just might be an artist hidden inside of you. This next exercise is perhaps the closest we're going to get to drawing and doodling. It's called a story map. You might have used this technique in a writing class to help you name and organize the major components of a story, like the characters, the plot, set, theme, and so on. For our use in journal writing, we won't be as structured, but our story map can still help us get organized and stay focused when there might be a lot of ideas rolling around in our heads and we just don't know where to start. Ours is a very simple map with just 3 writing blocks, but you can have as many blocks as you want. I've listed some ideas that we can map, but please feel free to come up with your own idea. Let's take, 3 to 5 minutes with this exercise. Make the blocks on your journal writing page. 1, 2, 3 blocks, or 4 or 5, however many you think you might need. You can use the ideas that are listed here, or you can come up with an idea of your own. Also, what you write can be factual or fictitious. It's totally up to you. We're just experimenting and enjoying this technique. I'll play some music while you write. You can drop a thought in the chat about that exercise, and thanks for giving it a try. Let's move on to another journal writing technique. It's called unsent letters. If you decide to use this technique a lot, it just might be the #1 reason to burn your journals before you leave the planet. This journal writing technique gives you permission to throw caution to the wind and just say it. It's unedited and uncensored. It's you at your worst feeling, or it could be you at your best feeling. But if it's you at your worst, perhaps it doesn't even go into your journal at all, but it goes on one of those random pieces of paper I mentioned before. That way, you can tear it up after you have had more time to think things over. The most critical thing to know about an unsent letter is you don't send it. It's not for others, it's for you to get something off your chest, something that other people don't need to hear, or it could damage a relationship. Now, I've written several unsent letters over the years, and to be honest, I did send one. That wasn't a good idea, so learn from my mistake. You know, I think a lot of what's on social media today is sadly unsent letters that were sent. The unsent letter is a way for you to process and find relief from a strong emotion. Some people get this same kind of relief by listening to music, drawing, running, exercising, volunteering, or doing a random act of kindness. So, if you think that you might be tempted to send an unsent letter, consider trying another avenue for dealing with strong emotions. Let's start or try starting out an unsent letter. I've put a few prompts on the screen. Let the words flow. Don't focus on spelling or clarity or being logical or rational. Just write without stopping for about 2 to 3 minutes. And remember, an unsent letter doesn't have to be sent to another person. You can write one to yourself, a pet, an illness, an issue you're facing, a part of your body, such as a broken leg. So let's write while you listen to some music. How was that? I hope that helped to get something off your chest for you and onto a piece of paper. I do want to point out one very important thing that sometimes causes some confusion, and that's the difference between an open letter and an unsent letter. An open letter, while it is addressed to a particular person or group, the writer really does want other people to see it. And that's because the writer is trying to bring attention to an important issue. They're often written to political or governmental officials. The difference is with the unsent letter, it's about you bringing closure and clarity and calm to some challenging feelings. And with the other, you're trying to bring attention to something that you think needs to be taken care of. Let's move on to talking about harvesting our journals. That's a photo of all my journals from the past 20 years. The older ones are on the bottom and the newer journals are on the top shelf. I have a tradition of starting a new journal every January 1st, whether I finished writing in the old journal or not. Another tradition I have is that I take one day between Christmas and New Year's Day to read through my journals from that year. It's enlightening, emotional, and it gives me some things I might want to start, stop, or continue in the coming new year. By reading through my journals, I can see where I've grown or not grown as a human being. I notice if I've written down any significant developments in my health, finances, or career. I can see what I prayed about a lot, where my heart and mind were focused and where my heart and mind were at odds with each other. This time spent reviewing my journals helps me see how I was spending my life. Then I can decide if I want to make any changes in the new year. But what else can you do with your old journals besides reading them? The slide gives you some ideas. Now, one thing people do with their old journals is destroy them. That is certainly an option. One of my sons has asked me for mine, so I'm willing my journals to him. That is what I am doing. It's not what you have to do. Do what feels safe for you and others who might read your journals. Perhaps you tear a section or two out before giving them to someone. It's totally up to you. Albert Einstein left his travel journals to the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. Anyone can view his journals online. Now, these are travel journals, so there might not have been a lot of personal, emotional stuff in them. What you've written in your journals will help you decide what you want to do with them. One of the things you can do with your journals, or maybe just a journal entry, is publish them. That was one of the things listed on the previous slide. Recently, I started a thought in my journal, then I built it out on my laptop, and today it was published in the CS Monitor. There's a link to it in the chat room if you'd like to read it. There's a very good book about harvesting your journals called Harvesting Your Journals. It was written by Rosalie Dearhart and Allison Strickland. It's difficult to find a hard copy, but you can download it from various online retailers. The Champaign Public Library can get a hold of a hard copy for you if you like to hold a book in your hand like I do. I've been finding the book to be very helpful because I have started the process of harvesting my journal. So what I'm sharing right now is more from the book than my lived experience. But this part I do know is true. The project of harvesting your journals is huge and can be daunting. So the first thing you want to consider is, why am I doing this? Think about what you hope to discover, what you want to achieve, and what you think will be the reward of a lot of time and effort. Accountability will be needed to stick to a project like this. So you might want to find someone, a spouse, a family member, a friend, someone else who is harvesting their journals to encourage you and to keep you going with grace-filled accountability. What you may also want to do is limit your time and the place for this task. Perhaps you only work on it on Saturday afternoons or Sunday evenings. Do plan to take breaks and reward yourselves as you come to milestones like, whenever I go through 5 journals, I'm going to have a cookie, whatever that may be. Or when you finish, celebrate what you've accomplished. Celebrate that you accomplished what you set out to do. We're not going to practice this exercise tonight, but I'd like to invite you to take a little time during the next month to read through a few pages of one of your older journals. Find an entry or two that grabs your attention, and then ask yourself, what word, phrase, or sentence stands out to me, and why? How have I changed since writing this? How might I expand on this thought or issue? Is this still true, significant, or a concern? I've always found it enlightening to see where my thoughts have been and how they have changed or not changed over the years. That, for me, has been the major benefit of keeping a journal. Well, there you have it. All you need to know about journal writing. Well, not really. What's missing is your personal experience, how you can be transformed by this discipline. So, thank you. I hope you found the information shared useful. I'm putting in the chat a document that has 10 additional journal writing prompts that you can use when you get, tired or bored of just however writing you normally write. There are many other ways to come at this practice. Again, the slides from this evening are there, as well as the article that I wrote based on my journal entry. I enjoy journal writing, and I hope that you would find this an enjoyable practice as well. I'm going to turn the screen back over to Salem, and if you have any questions, she'll call on you. Feel free to raise your hands literally or with the icon.
Thank you, Maisie. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, while we wait for some questions to come in. So everything I just shared in the chat, the slides and the additional journal writing exercises, I will also send that out via email tomorrow. So if you didn't catch it in the chat or you didn't get a chance to copy it, it's there, but I will also send it out via email. One question did come in early on, and they were asking, would you be willing to share your playlist, or can you suggest music that you use to write to?
Let's see. I don't have a playlist per se. I have my little iPhone and my music on here, and I just listen to songs. And when I don't like the song that comes up, I go to the next song. But I probably should be a little bit more structured about that. But you put together the music that you like. Probably instrumental, probably something, more softer, but it's totally up to you. Whatever is going to help you to relax and to just get settled into doing some writing.
Thank you. Like Maisie said, you can type in the chat if you have a question, or you can raise your hand and I can unmute you. Still have a little more time for questions. A lot of people saying thank you so far.
Okay.
While we're waiting for any other questions, so another comment early on had mentioned that one thing they've considered doing is dictating to a Word document. So instead of typing, they can just talk to yourself. Have you ever considered that, or do you use that tool?
I don't use that for journaling, but I do use it to transcribe tapes. I interview people a lot, and it's faster to just dictate, from what I'm listening to, rather than trying to, type all of that out. Um, I guess because I like to, handwrite my journals, that wouldn't be something that I would do for journal writing. But again, whatever works for you, whatever helps you to um, do and sustain this practice, go with it. Um, those are not the kinds of limitations you want to put on yourself, that it has to be done a certain way.
Thank you. Another person is asking, do you have any prompt suggestions for lists in a journal, i.e. beyond to-do lists?
I'm not sure.
Any prompt suggestions, writing
Oh,
prompts? Yeah.
how to make a list, different kinds of list. Is that what the question is?
I believe, yeah, just like any kind of prompt. So anything, so a prompt beyond like a to-do list, any kind of prompt, go-to prompts that you use.
Oh, you know what? I will send you so you can send out tomorrow. I have a list of 101 things you can make a list about. So I will send you that. You can make a list about anything, really. And none of them are coming to mind. I mean, things you like to do outdoors, things you like to do inside, things you've been doing during COVID, things you wish you can do after COVID. You can make a list about anything. But I do have a list of 101 things that you can make a list about, and I will send that to you, and you can send that out to everybody to borrow.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Another participant is asking, do you ever have thoughts that become discouraging and negative when writing? And if so, what do you do with them?
I write about them. The writing for me is a release of them. I try not to be afraid of writing what I'm feeling, and I don't experience it as discouraging to me. I feel it as being very freeing to write even what I'm afraid of. So I don't feel discouraged by my writing. I feel enriched. I feel that I have a voice. I feel that I can say whatever I want to say, and it's okay. It's between me and me, so it's okay for me to say whatever I want to say in my journal.
Thank you. And then we'll make this the last question since we're nearing the end. Can you write an unsent letter more than once if you don't feel unburdened?
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, go back to it as much as you need to. Again, don't send it to anybody, but but if you're not finished with it, in fact, I have an unfinished unsent letter in my journal right now, and I've been kind of debating if I'm going to go back and finish it because I'm kind of feeling like, what's the point, you know? But um, I have that freedom. I can go back and finish it if I want to. Otherwise, it's just a letter that's, will be sitting there. And when I harvest, or read through my journals at the end of this year, I'll see that and I'll see, is this still something that's important? It may not be important anymore. So that'll be just fine.
Thank you. Well, before we end, I want to once again give a big thank you to Maisie. That was wonderful. I also want to give one reminder. Our next workshop, will be on Wednesday, March 3rd at 7 p.m. The topic will be Biblio Breakdown, how to surprise your readers with Ektagarg. So make sure you sign up for that. I will also keep an eye out for all of our upcoming events. Everything is still virtual, so I just put a link there in the chat, champaign.org/events. You can check out all the different webinars we have going on, with the categories business or career or tech. Lots going on every day, so make sure you sign up for those. Lots of people saying thank you in the chat. Thank you so much. Great presentation, and I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, we are at the end. I want to say thank you everyone for coming, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.